If you own a gym, you need to really think about creating that third place. A lot of coaches in general, whether you're just online or you're in person, get too caught up in like the X's and O's and the science of training for years. And so, to this day, 27 years into it, I'm still going to study that on a weekly basis. However, that's not the most important thing. Most people don't need that high level stuff, right? They need kind of basic stuff. So people aren't coming in because the perfect angle, the incline, or the origin insertion of this muscle, or whatever. Like, they don't really care about that so much. So what are they actually there for? A lot of times it's community, it's being part of something. I think too many coaches and trainers don't really consider that. Like, you got to work on your people skills. That comes across online, that comes across in the gym. That's really the thing that I don't think trainers and coaches do enough. Anything that has to do with building relationships and improving your people skills, I think is just highly underrated.
Hey guys, Dustin Bogle here with the Lunch with the Punch podcast, and I got a special guest. It's a guy that I've crossed paths with many times. We have a lot of mutual friends in the business, and a guy that I've looked up to. I've consumed his content. I've really applied a lot of what he's taught on his podcast and on his blogs. And, again, as a guy that's nearing 40 years old, a lot of his stuff is very applicable to me. And then, of course, my team, my clients at the gyms that we operate in SoCal. So today I'm joined by a buddy that I want to get to know more and more, and this conversation is going to help that happen. And that is Jason Ferruggia. So Jason, you ready to do this, my friend?
I'm ready, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, yeah. One of the common bonds we have is wrestling. Both fans. I think I shared you in the past. I actually was in the industry for 10 years. Never make it to the big times, but I know a lot of people that that are now there. And, I got to get in the ring with Cesaro and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Rollins and all those guys. We've had matches. And then,
awesome,
yeah. And then I got to actually mix it up with some of those 80s superstars, Marty Jannetty, Tito Santana, Haku.
Wow.
So wow. It was a cool life experience, but just injuries and other things caused me to, step more and focus on fitness. But I wanted to just talk shop with you. I'm still a fan of it. I still follow it. Got a lot of friends in the industry. So I thought we should do a rapid fire and kind of let the audience get to know what your opinions are about wrestling. So I'm going to just go through some different categories and just share what your favorite, person is in that category. All right.
All right.
So first one, favorite entrance.
Stone Cold. The glass breaks. I mean, that's,
iconic. Yep. That was one of the loudest pops I've ever heard when I saw him live. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. Favorite singles wrestler, and we want to say then and now, like somebody long ago and then somebody in the current time.
So I can't do current time because I'm friends with people and I can't.
That's fair enough. I understand.
Long time ago. I mean, how long back? Like, could it be Stone Cold?
Anytime. Attitude Era.
Yeah, I would go Stone Cold still. I think.
Okay.
I mean, well, you know what? Overall in-ring performer. I mean, JR always said it best. Like Shawn Michaels, I think was the best. Yeah. Stone Cold was more just like the promo and his feud with Vince and all that changed the game forever. HBK though, hard to match his in-ring performance.
And that's fair. Like best entertainer and then best in-ring work. So I like that spin on it. Okay, you could do the same one with this next one, which is tag team. What is your favorite tag team of all time?
Immediately, the three that come to mind are British Bulldogs, Hart Foundation, and LOD. I guess I go LOD, Legion of Doom, Road Warriors.
Love it. All right.
Yeah.
And then what was your favorite feud of all time?
Oof, that's a tough one. Is it Rock Austin or is it HBK Brett? HBK Brett because it was real, maybe.
Yes.
They always did those shoot promos and everything, and they got that fight backstage that time. I'll go HBK Brett.
Okay, I like it. Yeah. All right, favorite finisher.
Maybe the Razor's Edge.
That's a good one.
Like that, rest in peace, Scott Hall. I always used to love giving that to friends when we were in a pool somewhere or something. That was always my go-to.
I like it. Okay, and then last two. favorite heel and favorite baby face.
Man, who was the best at being a heel? So hard to say. So many people.
Like they just got under your skin. They pissed you off. You couldn't wait to see the baby face punch their lights out.
Oh man, it's so hard. I don't know who's the best. Well, I should know that. I mean, Stone Cold was great as a heel, of course. Flair. I'm going to go back to, I don't know, maybe I change this answer later, but I'm going to go back to Brett during those days when he was feuding with HBK and he was feuding with Stone Cold around the same time.
Yes.
I like that a lot. And I liked when he was face in Canada and he was heel here.
Yes.
I don't know. That was so good. And then babyface, I still think Stone Cold's run at the top was just unmatched, you know?
Yeah, I love it, man. And I almost think that that's like the beginning of the smart phase where like the fans were interested what's going on backstage. Why are they being cheered in this city and booed here? To boo and we'll cheer who you tell us to cheer because they're so like dastardly bad guys or they're so likable good guys. And that was like probably the beginning of that whole change, you know? Love it, man. Good answers. I'm on the same page with you. And I agree on a lot of those answers. So I wanted to ask, like, first introduction, how did you even first get introduced to pro wrestling? Do you remember that moment? What was the first like match or, you know, the time you got exposed to it?
Yeah, I don't even remember. I remember I started watching wrestling in '82. So I don't know if it was Saturday morning wrestling, something like that, like Superstars or something. And then I remember watching the AWA, watching the Road Warriors on ESPN after school sometimes. And I don't remember anything specific.
Were you living on the East Coast at that time?
Yeah, I was in Jersey, so we didn't see like a lot of NWA or WCW stuff. We only saw WWE pretty much, no other territories. But again, on ESPN, you'd see like the Von Erichs and stuff like that, depending if you just randomly caught it. And then reading Pro Wrestling Illustrated and those magazines, you know, I'd get my dad to buy me those magazines, and then you kind of like you know, read about what was going on in other parts. Like we barely knew who Ric Flair was, but I would just see him in the magazines. I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I remember thinking too, when I was a kid, I was like, man, is NWA real and WWE's not? WWF is not? Because how would you have a guy that looks like Ric Flair be the champion for so long? You know what I mean? And I was like, I couldn't figure it all out. Little did I know at the time how good Ric Flair really was at what he did. You know, I didn't know about ring psychology and promo. You just like when you're a kid, you just see a guy who looks jacked and runs around like the Ultimate Warrior, like, oh, that must be a good wrestler. I don't know. So yeah, and then I remember my first match ever was at the Meadowlands. We were sitting on like the last row. But I remember we walked in a few minutes late, and it was the Moondogs versus the Wild Samoans. I remember that was the first thing I saw live in person. And then Big John Studd wrestled Andre that night. I don't remember who Hulk wrestled in the main event. It may have been King Kong Bundy or somebody. I can't exactly remember, but those were the things that I remember. Yeah.
All right. I remember it was like this off limits thing. And then as a kid, obviously it makes you attracted more to it. So my mom's like, don't let you know, Dustin watch wrestling. And my dad was watching it on, you know, Saturdays. And for me, it's burned in my mind. It was like that segment the Undertaker did where he had the coffin and he actually got Ultimate Warrior. He put him in the coffin. He locked it up. The guys are trying to crowbar him out. They're screaming. Piper's on the mic. He's been in there 60 seconds. He's going to be dead. And I was just watching it thinking, oh my God, are we watching someone die right here on television?
Right.
And at that moment, I was hooked because I was like, this is crazy. The characters, the storylines, the drama. That was my moment. And that was like 91. So yeah. So like what's, you know, your fandom now? Are you like really like watching that WWE and you've been like true to them? Do you ever go out to like indie shows locally where you are? Because you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've only been to an indie show maybe 2 or 3 times in my life just to support friends, stuff like that. No, I still watch WWE all the time because again, I have a lot of friends in there now.
Yeah.
Although a bunch of my friends are gone over the last couple of years, you know, Cesaro and John Morrison and a few others left. Adil was gone, but he just came back Monday night.
Okay.
It's Mustafa Ali.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So I watch that, and then, you know, once in a while, if I catch it, I'll watch AEW just to see what's going on. I mean, it definitely assembled a pretty good talent roster over there, and I think what they're doing is great. I like the promos are not so scripted like WWE. I think they got a good thing going there.
Love it. Love it. I don't know if he ever shared this with you, but it's kind of a funny story, but I actually took Bedros to his first indie wrestling show.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he did tell you about me getting super kicked and all that. Yeah. So like, I just told my friends, we're going to have your opponent just sit in my lap, and then he's going to move last second, super kick me. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to make my buddy Bedros think that like, this is not scripted. My friend got hurt. I drove him there. How am I going to get home? And you know, he caught on pretty quick. Like he's a smart guy. Like I was hoping I could pull a fast one on him, but he wasn't down for that.
It's great.
But yeah, like I've moved from California. I'm in Texas now, and man, it is wrestling central. Like people love it out here still. Like in California,
where in Texas are you?
30 minutes east of Dallas. So it's Rockwall is the name of the city. But basically, when I was in California, like it's more lucha libre inspired because we're by Mexico, and there's more of that, you know, heritage. But man, out here you got the Von Erichs, and then you just got all these wrestling companies, and they draw pretty good sized houses. There was a midget wrestling show over the weekend that had 800 people in attendance, and it was like they were like sold out. And I was like, man, wrestling is more popular than ever, from the high all the way down to the low, where it hasn't been like that in a long time. So it's an exciting time to be a fan, to kind of like dabble in all the different, you know, areas that you can and see all the different, you know, niches. And yeah, it's just it's a fun time to be a wrestling fan right now.
When did you leave Cali?
About a year ago. Yeah.
Just due to the insanity?
Just, you know, it's not small business friendly. I got 3 gyms out there. It's just not small business friendly. We still remotely run them, you know, from Texas. I just have leaders in place there. Not business friendly, getting crazy expensive. You know, like for my kids to be able to buy a house out there one day is just like absurd. Just the taxes, the traffic, like the list goes on and on. I mean, I love it. The nature and the weather is beautiful. It's like it's unparalleled. But you know, it's just the way it's being ran. You know, it's unfortunately being ran into the mud. You know, I don't know if you saw this photo during the pandemic, but it's like a great way to kind of encapsulate California. Was, you know, they shut down the Mecca because of COVID, and like just no one's training. And so like all these homeless people just moved into the parking lot, and they made it like a tent city. And then
I lived a few blocks from there.
Yeah. And then they reopened it. And so like a guy, you know, a client, whoever's going to work out there, rolls up in a Lamborghini, and there was a photographer there taking photos, and they just like got all of that in one photo. It was like a guy, you know, on the ground, sleeping, homeless, guy in a Lamborghini going to Gold's Gym, and they're like, this is like the wealth gap right here in the city, and like these people need help. Why are we not taking these taxes and putting it into like, get a warehouse, something set up where they just get off the street, get some help, get some job training. You know, it's like it's a shame that that's happening and they're not doing nothing about it in one of the wealthiest states in the country. It's like blows my mind. But yeah, man, we'll shift gears. I want to talk fitness with you, because obviously that is a huge part of your life, and you know, something that you help people with. And just for people who are like curious, like what is your expertise? What is it that you really like to help with? Because there's so many different ways you could go in fitness, right? You can help so many different types of people and help so many different types of problems. But what do you feel like is like your forte? Like if you have this problem, like I'm your guy, like hit me up.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the hard gainer column for 10 years in muscle and fitness. Men's fitness. And so I was always a skinny hard gainer. I had a gym for 15 years, and we trained, you know, countless people to do that. I trained a lot of athletes. My business was quite honestly predominantly athletes, but it was skinny kids who then went on to college, who went on to play pro. And so my thing was getting people jacked and strong. And then as I evolved, it was getting people jacked. You know, I'm 47 now. It's getting people jacked and strong in a way that's going to keep them feeling good, keep them healthy, not bang up their joints. You know, there's certain things you can get away with when you're in your 20s, obviously, that you can't as you get older. So now it's still the same thing. It's, you know, hypertrophy, like smart, sensible hypertrophy, joint friendly.
Awesome. And then do you specifically like really target men, or are you working with both genders?
I generally work with men. Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of dive into that. Like, when you're helping a guy, because, you know, summer season is upon us, you know, and everybody's talking about getting lean and shredded. They probably should have started sooner, but like, let's say they're starting now. What would you say are some like boxes you check with a man that's over 40 who's trying to shred? What would you assign him in terms of a workout? What would you try to give him in terms of maybe a calorie range or a nutrition plan?
Yeah. So first and foremost, even if you're trying to get lean, training remains the same. Hypertrophy training is fat loss training. So you don't, need to just shift into doing super lightweight, high reps and no rest periods. Training is going to be pretty much the same. We're going to focus on heavy compound exercises, 6 to 10 rep range, progressive overload. Most people simply don't keep a training journal. They don't know what they're doing. And it's almost like a magic wand that you wave over your training when you just start tracking. I mean, we know in business or anything else, what gets tracked and measured actually improves. But a lot of people just go to the gym. They don't think about that. And they just go through the motions, do the same thing and wonder, why am I not changing? Well, you got to write down, okay, to dumbbell presses with 50s for 6, while your goal next week is to get them for 7, or to get them for 8, or to put on quarter-pound plate mates, and then slowly over time be doing more weight, more reps, whatever it might be. So progressive overload is going to always be first and foremost. So you can set your training up, 3 to 4 strength training days a week. I could get into more of how that would look if you want, but then of course, nutrition is going to be really super important in terms of, and I keep it super simple. So if you're looking to lose fat, you're probably looking at 10 to 12 times body weight. Maybe if you have a ton to lose or you have a really short time period, we drop that down to 9 or even 8. I never go below 8 times body weight.
Yeah.
But so let's say you're at 10 times body weight, say you weigh 180 80 pounds. So we're going to go a gram of protein per pound. We're going to go 0.5 grams. So you'd be doing 180 grams of protein. You'd be doing 90 grams of fat, so 0.5 times body weight. And then the rest are from carbs. And then just eliminating, basic junk food.
Yeah.
Right. So eliminate, to me, improving gut health improves a lot of things. Like your immune system gets better, you build muscle faster, you sleep better, your cognitive functions better, you lose fat easier. So I want to improve gut health, reduce some inflammation. If we do that, most people could flush out like 5 pounds in a week or so.
Yep.
Just because we get rid of the inflammatory stuff, the seed oils, anything fried, excessive amounts of sugar or grains or dairy if you don't tolerate it. So we focus on meat, lean protein, veggies, fruit, some sweet potatoes, things like that. If you're looking to lose fat really fast, I'll usually even just cut grains out because again, for the first 30 days, I want to reduce inflammation. So pretty simple. Just that's how I like my diet's super simple. I eat the same things all the time. I just eat 6 eggs for breakfast, meat for lunch, meat for dinner, and then I have some veggies and fruit with that. And then post training, I'll have some starchy carbs. And then in terms of losing fat, one thing that people really underestimate or don't even think about is sleep. If you don't optimize your sleep, then all the things I mentioned will suffer. You won't build muscle as fast, you won't lose fat as fast, your immune system suffers, cognitive function, libido. And I think people can compute that, like, oh yeah, all those other things make sense, but why wouldn't I lose fat as fast? You just won't. Like hormonally, you're just not going to be optimized. So do what you can to improve your sleep. I mean, there's a million things you probably discussed them plenty of times. But it's a good night of sleep actually starts in the morning. So if you can get outside and get exposed to natural sunlight, preferably with no shirt on or with no sunglasses, if you do that for 20 minutes in the morning, that's one of the best things you could do, not only to set your circadian rhythms for the day, but to set yourself up for a really good night of sleep. It does start first thing in the morning. And of course, have your nighttime routine, keep the house lights low, keep your room pitch black, keep it 66, 68 degrees, things like that. So, and I can go in more on training or whatever if you want.
No, I mean, that's great. And, in terms of just unique things that people are not often hearing, it's usually calories burned and how much calories you're taking in. And, you got to be in a calorie deficit. And I don't think we're putting enough emphasis on hormones, hormonal health, and then gut health and, recovery. And, this is something new that coaches are learning more and more about, but even the clients are learning to be open to it because they're like, oh, what, how much difference is that really going to make? It's more about this. And of course, there's those big rocks that do make a bigger difference. And then there's a small pebbles that make a smaller, but every person's unique. And I think, of course, it starts with a great intake kind of session and really learning more about the client. Coaching is customized. So I wanted to ask you, because I know there's various, it could be supplements, or I heard you mention the plate mates and different tools. What's one of the best investments that you've made in, say, the last year that has helped you with your fitness goals that you're like, man, that was well worth the money? And I often reference it to people and tell them, you got to buy this, you got to buy this.
Wow. Huh. That's a thinker. What have I bought in the last year? It's made such a great difference. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
Even if it's not in the last year, just any time that you're like, this helped me in the gym, this tool, or I felt a difference when I took this supplement, or when I added this, could be even just this service, like a meal prep or something like that. Like anything.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of supplements, things that definitely help for me, a few things come to mind. One, really high quality magnesium definitely improves my sleep.
Mm,
CBD definitely improves my sleep. It has to have a little bit of THC in it though. Just straight CBD, I've never found to do anything. So it has to have like zero point 0.5 or 1 milligram of THC with it. That definitely helps a ton. Uh, Iodine, I think, is a really underrated supplement. I actually have it right here, especially with fat loss. And if you a lot of people suffer like they're cold all the time. They have cold hands, cold feet. They can't lose fat. Their body temperature is low. It's below 98.6. That can often be a thyroid thing and an iodine thing. And a lot of times, if you add iodine, all of a sudden your fat loss kicks up, your immune system gets stronger. So I would say those three supplements really make a difference. I'm just trying to think of anything else in terms of training or nothing else I could think of that makes a huge difference off the top of my head.
okay. Well, I would say
Actually, I don't know if you've
yeah,
ever seen this. I was just sent this, but I haven't used it yet. The Focus Calm for meditating. I haven't even
interesting.
opened it yet. But yeah,
Okay.
it's highly recommended from people that I really know and respect. So, and I'm a huge believer in meditating. So I'm interested to try it.
All right. I'm
Yeah.
interested to hear how it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to talk about coaching because obviously I have a big, coaching like following, and that's kind of who I really help is coaches and gym owners. And so one of the things I want to talk about is just things that you see coaches doing, and we don't got to throw people under the bus or anything like that, but just like it drives you crazy. You're like, guys, if we stop doing this, our industry will be better for it. Learn this, or stop doing that, or you need to improve in this area. But what are things that you see, maybe if you're like a big box gym, or when you're scrolling your feed and you see a coach on social media, that you would really like to see less of it and eventually none of it over time?
Yeah, I mean, this could be an hour discussion. I would say, if you own a gym, uh, you need to really think about creating that third place, which a lot of coaches in general, whether you're just online or you're in person, get too caught up. And like, it's almost a pot calling the kettle black because I've been obsessed with like the X's and O's and the science of training for years. And so, to this day, 27 years into it, I'm still going to study that on a weekly basis. However, that's not the most important thing. That's like some of that's for your top 1% level of client, like your pro athlete or your actor who's getting ready for something, or someone who comes to you and is like, man, I've been training for 20 years. I'm at a plateau. Can you help me? Most people don't need that high level stuff, right? They need kind of basic stuff. So, but be good at it. Like there's a lot of people I see just putting out information. I'm like, bro, that's actually the exact opposite of the truth. Or they'll put up a video of an exercise and call it the name of a completely other exercise. I'm like, well, maybe you should go back to, figuring out how, you should know these things before you train people. But let's assume that you put in the work, you've studied, you're pretty good at what you do. I think perfectionism holds people back a lot. If you're trying to build a following online because you're worrying what other people are going to think, how they're going to judge you. So definitely you can't do that. You need to be executing and getting shit done. Where I was going was back to if you have a brick and mortar gym, like it needs to be the third place, like the book, The Starbucks Experience. Like everyone has home and work, and what's your third place? Like it's not just people aren't coming in because the perfect angle, the incline, of the origin insertion of this muscle or whatever. Like they don't really care about that so much. So what are they actually there for? A lot of times it's community, it's being part of something. Maybe they don't have a great social circle. That's their social circle. Maybe it's kind of part therapy for them. Whatever it is, it should be fun. It should be something that they look forward to. I think too many coaches and trainers don't really consider that. Like, what is happening when I walk in? Like, have you strongly considered the music, the layout of the place? Like, does the front desk person know my name? Do I feel special? Are you storytelling? Are you motivating people? Are you inspiring them? Are you creating bonds? Are you creating camaraderie and competition? all these things. It's not just, hey, I'm the smartest trainer, I know how to build your vastus medialis muscle better than anyone else. It's like, nah, most people don't care about that, really. So there's so much more that goes into it, and that's why I always suggest, whether you're online or not, you got to work on your people skills. That comes across online, that comes across in the gym. That's really the thing that I don't think trainers and coaches do enough. Is so, read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Fascinate and Captivate, 92 Ways to Talk to Anybody, and really work on that all the time, because that's going to get you a lot further than just getting to that next level of, oh, can I train a guy for the Mr. Olympia or the NFL or something? Take improv classes, take stand-up comedy classes. Always be doing that. Like, that's going to get you much further in your career. Anything that has to do with building relationships and improving your people skills, I think is just highly underrated.
Yeah. And I think what, coaches tend to enjoy is jumping into another course or another cert.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Learning more about that, thinking that's the ticket. If I have more like letters after my last name, or I have more certs I can brag I have, but the person wants to know, how do you make them feel? And what is your skill at connecting with someone and asking about them and, inquiring about their life? And they'll pick that trainer or coach any day of the week versus the one that's got the most, certs and courses under their belt,
There's a lot of guys that I could name that have never taken a cert or course. They don't know that much about training, that are making 7 figures. And so the response from those guys who, just like you mentioned there, take all those certs every other week is like, oh, fuck that guy. That's not cool. Like, they'll be bitter or jealous or angry. Where no, don't do that. Like, if you know all these things, if you're that good and this guy who's not that good is making that much money, okay, great. That should be inspiring to you. What's your blind spot? What do you need to work on? If you're jealous and bitter and angry about someone else's success, you're never going to be successful. So just look at those people as inspiration. Like, you should see inspiration in everything and everyone. Someone who's better than you and someone who's worse than you. There's something you can learn from,
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I have that mindset that I'll even learn from my kids. It's funny, we recently took them to a park and they saw those little spikes that if you back up or you come the wrong way, it flashes your tires. And so my son looked down at it and he's like, hey dad, what do those do? And I explained, and he's like, isn't that a little extreme for just going the wrong way? And I was like, you're actually right. Good observation. So I just blindly walk by or drive by these things all the time, and I never stop and think that is kind of nuts that you're going to slash someone's tires for going the wrong way.
Right.
So, I'm always learning, for no matter who I'm around. And I wanted to kind of back up some. You mentioned one thing that I teach to gym owners is the 3 R's for keeping your clients and having high retention. And the first one's results. That's your ticket in. Clients will just quit on you if you're not getting them results. And that's almost your first impression. If you're not getting them that, I'm not even going to get to know you. I'm going to go look for another gym or trainer because I'm hiring you to get me results. So we got to get them at that. The second is relationships, and kind of being like Spider-Man. I say, if I had a web between you and I have one bond at the gym, but I want to be like Spider-Man. I want to shoot webs between you and everybody else in the gym and create more bonds. And now if you have 10 friends that you go get drinks, coffee, and, go out to the bar, and you go to the movies together and you have play dates with each other's kids, it is harder to think of canceling, because I'm canceling all these friendships that are part of my day. So I said, the quicker you can introduce people to other people in the gym, the more you're kind of being that Spider-Man and bonding them into your gym deeper and deeper. And it's harder to leave. If I just know the coach, it's easier to just leave because I only have to say goodbye to one bond. But if I have 10, it's way harder, right? And so that's the relationships, results, relationships. The third R is actually revenue. So this was kind of a different mindset that I had that I didn't see in a lot of other gym owners. And so I try to share this with them. I'm like, treat your gym like a chamber of commerce. If somebody's getting married, introduce them to another client that is a hairstylist. If someone's buying a house, find another client that's a realtor. Make your clients money. And if they're getting results, relationships, and revenue, why would they ever want to leave? They're like, I get paid to be a member at this gym. If you have small business owner clients, which again, a lot of gym owners will have, if they're a higher ticket program, they're naturally going to attract business owners and entrepreneurs. So it's send them referrals internally. And again, I don't know why a lot of people are missing the boat on that. I was sending my clients money. There's a realtor that almost built her whole business off of my business. All she got was referrals from us. And it's wow. She never canceled. So
Yeah,
make your
amazing.
clients money too, to help
Dude,
them
I
pay
love that.
for their membership with you, right?
That's so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. Now, I agree with all those, but I will challenge the thinking on the results here. And here's why I'm saying that. Because although I agree with you 100%, there are that small percentage of people who we as coaches, we put our desire into their, like, what I mean is, let's say a girl comes in and she weighs 180 and we're like, well, she probably look and feel her best at 130. But maybe she, like, there are, and you've seen that, there's that small percentage of people who are actually not coming so much for the physical results, even though we project that on them. That might be, hey man, this is my happiest time of the week. I come here because it allows me to drink wine each night and eat chocolate or whatever. And a lot of times those people who never physically change, like, they may be the lifeblood of the gym. Like, they're the leader of the 4 o'clock hour or whatever. Like, people, everyone loves them. And so we're like, oh, I'm failing this person. But then if to kind of like take something from my friend Dr. John Berardi, like, if you actually interview them and look at the jobs to be done, things like that, it's like, no, that's not my number one thing. Like, I want to be stronger, I want to feel healthier, but I also like to drink wine and eat chocolate and stuff like that. I like being here. So that might be the result that she wanted. Sometimes we just assume, and again, not to disagree with you, most people do want to look better, of course, but sometimes we just project that. So you got to dig a little deeper, sometimes.
No, I totally agree with you. Again, that result, it is like, based on what the client's version of that result is. It could be fat loss,
Yeah.
could be stronger, it could be just to maintain, to not gain weight so that they can have those nights
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
The result could also be the relationship. Like, I need to
Totally.
get out of
Yeah.
the house and make friends. And like,
Yeah.
it seems like a better way to do it than just consuming a bunch of alcohol or overspending and just going to the mall and spending time there. So yeah,
Right.
like, I totally agree with you. And I see what you're saying by that, though.
Because I think sometimes in fitness, like, if someone joined a martial arts class, we as the instructor wouldn't assume, oh, this person's training for the UFC. Like, they're just going for all the reasons that we said, and maybe they get better slower than everybody else, but it's their favorite thing to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know what I mean? I think in fitness, we always think about physical transformation, weight on the scale. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
sometimes that's not the person's main thing.
Yes. And like, another aspect of that is like mental health, which obviously
Yeah.
got like a big like
Huge.
zoom in right now because of COVID. And I'm always like, kind of like, I guess, like, I could kind of see what they're saying, but I'm also kind of hesitant when people say like, oh, fitness is my therapy. And I've, actually heard like, no, like, therapy is therapy. Like, you need to go process your stuff. You need to go talk to a
Yeah.
therapist. Like, fitness might be a good stress reliever, a more productive way to let tension and stress out of your body, but maybe it's not like really therapy. You probably need to go do that, right? So
Yeah.
there's like mental.
I think there's a fine line. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it definitely helps, reduces anxiety. Like you said, it reduces stress. There may be times where, just based on the day, you just want to punch someone in the face, and going to the gym and bench pressing prevents you from punching someone in the face, which is good. Yeah. But I mean, there's certain things, it's not going to help you work out like what happened with your mom when you were 7.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jason, I want to kind of like take a look now at your business and like what you are like working on. Like, what is a project you're working on that you're super excited about? Something that's, maybe it's already launched, or it's coming soon, or, just something that, you're excited that, gets you excited to wake up and work every day.
Yeah, well, I try not to do too many things. I think anyone that I really look up to and admire, and all my favorite books are all about like simplicity and essentialism and the one thing and 80/20. So, and it becomes more challenging as your social circle grows, and you have success in certain things and you have more opportunities. It becomes harder to say no. So that's always been a challenge for me, but it's something that I try to be pretty good at, is saying no to too many things, saying no to a lot of things and not saying yes to too many things. And so basically, like, I work on growing the podcast, and then when that grows, we can make more money from it. And then I try to just focus on having one kind of coaching. For years, it was a lower ticket membership thing, and then for the last few years, we've been doing more higher ticket coaching. Right now, I'm working on kind of like maybe a combo somewhere in the middle. But I really love having one thing, just
Yes.
driving, like, everything I do. So all the content I put out goes to driving people towards one thing. And then on the back end, maybe we can sell them something else, or we could do live events and stuff like that. But I've always found throughout my life, no matter what it is, whether it's training, nutrition, business, relationships, whatever, I try to simplify everything and not do too much. Otherwise, I think it's human nature, but certainly speaking for myself, I kind of lose it and fall apart when I have too many things going on.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I actually heard a story from Alex Hormozy, who he said when he used to go to events and sit in the audience, the person would share what they were doing to hit these, crazy, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses. He's like, that seems too simple. But he said most geniuses just do the simple things for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And most people who never reach any level of success, they change every moment they can, anytime something new and flashy pops up. And then that kind of becomes their legacy, is that they didn't make one because they got caught up in new and shiny objects.
Which I get it, man. It's hard, especially nowadays with social media, and you see what everyone's doing at every second. It's really hard to just do that one thing, repeatedly forever.
Yeah,
that's why I was like sports analogies. Like the best players of all time just do the basics really well, just repeatedly all the time. Even if we go back to wrestling, it's a few things that those guys, like Stone Cold in the ring, not the greatest. He just did a few things, like he had the Fez press and the stunner and a couple other things, but he did them repeatedly and he did them well, and he was great on the mic,
Yeah.
But any sports analogy works there for that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like when someone goes to see a band, they want to go see those famous hits. And it's like when you go see that wrestler, you want to go see him do his 5 or 7 moves. And then you're happy you saw them live, and that kind of gets you excited. But cool. So in terms of like just on that note of business, when it comes to gym owners, like I know you have Luca, and when you're traveling, you go into them. And I know you're probably like most entrepreneurs, you're always scanning and seeing opportunities. You're like, oh my God, if they just did this, don't they know they could clean up? If they added that, oh my God, they would crush it. So like when you're going into gyms, it could be like a traditional big box gym, or it could be more of that boutique micro style gym. What are opportunities that you see gym owners missing out on? And it could be just an additional revenue stream. It could be something they could be investing into their team, could be equipment, could be something else. But like, what are maybe 1 or 2 things that you're like, this is something that I think gym owners are missing the boat on?
So I'm a huge music guy. Like music is just playing all day, every day for me. Old school hip hop soundtrack in my life. Huge rock fan too, though. So like if I walk in and the music's not, like I could tell, oh, this is not a main priority for people. I think that's a huge misstep. Like, when I ran the gym for 15 years, I would spend hours every week creating, and this before we had phones play music, right? iPods or whatnot. I would make CDs. I would spend hours just making CDs that, for training mixes and stuff like that. And then, still to this day, I'm doing that. And so I think like just when I walk in, I want to feel the vibe. I want to know what's going on here, right? So like music, I know a lot of places they don't pay attention to the music. They just put on the radio or whatever. It's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
So, but again, and you mentioned Luca. Like when you walk into Luca's gym in Seattle, you're immediately just taken aback. Like, what is so different? Like, this is crazy. Like the murals he's got painted on the wall, the music, everybody's hugging each other. Everybody hangs out for 15 to 60 minutes before and after their workout. Like that's a sign that you're doing it right. If people want to hang out and just chill and talk, and you've created that family atmosphere, and it's like a coffee shop, people are just rushing in and rushing out. You're probably not doing a great job. So I think really thinking like aesthetically, what does it look like? What's the music like? What are the coaches like? Like Alan Cosgrove always said, I would hire the guy down the street who's a really good bartender, who's great with people, versus the guy that we talked about at the beginning, the coach who's getting a cert every other week, but has no personality, has no ability to connect with humans, has no ability to do what you said, connect everyone else in the room, things like that. Like the people you hire is really important. And if you're smart, like to take Cosgrove's advice, it's not going to be that kind of nerdy guy who just knows everything about training. People don't care about that.
Yeah.
So people who can create it. And then I think what you should do, if you have a team of trainers, bring people in to do improv workshops and to do stand-up comedy and to do fun things like that. Like, I don't know if you ever did it in wrestling, but I know Vince McMahon would bring in improv teachers all the time, and those guys would do that. Things like that, I think are just really important. And then just making people feel special, like it's their birthday or, their kids' names, all those things for me. Now, for me personally, what do I geek out on? If you have really good equipment, like I'm a meathead, so I could look at 5 different lines of incline presses to be like, oh, the resistance profile is horrible on this one. They could have just fixed this. So I like that. I like equipment. I'm looking at that. But when I'm looking at the lens that you just mentioned, that's really what I see so much. And of course, cleanliness. That drives me nuts. If a place is not clean, I'm like, everything else that I just named could be on. But if it's dirty and shitty, I'm like, guys, this is such a simple fix, and it's turning me off of this whole place,
Yeah, I agree. That is something that kind of runs rampant in fitness. It's like, it's just like this, things are dirty. I don't care, and like,
and there's like a cool, like, oh, it's hardcore. No, it's gross. It's gross. Like, I remember talking to Triple H one time, and Joe DeFranco had texted me and said, Triple H is coming out to LA. Can you meet him? Do you have a good gym you can meet him at? Show him some stuff. I was like, yeah, totally. So I met Triple H. It's a really nice gym in LA, Santa Monica, called Iron. And it's spotless, like every hour of the day, almost to the point where it's annoying. Someone's vacuuming and mopping and everything. And so he commented on that. He's like, man, I love how clean this place is. And he goes, I used to go to Gold's Venice, but it's like, I remember he specifically said, it's like, am I going to catch syphilis on this bar or something? Like, everything's so gross. And again, some places wear that as a badge of honor. Oh, it's a powerlifting gym. It's a hardcore gym. But yeah, that doesn't mean it should be dirty and disgusting. I don't want to be getting diseases.
Yeah. And if you get those hard charger people, they're usually going to be business owners, entrepreneurs, and then they can't risk getting sick because now they're out of the business. And then now you're taking them out of the game of business. And so it's like, I totally agree with you. And what's great about everything you mentioned, doesn't cost a lot. It's commission a guy to do some cool murals, to make a nice inviting lobby space, to write some handwritten cards and say it's a happy birthday, to hire a cleaning service. I'm not talking about breaking the bank here, but a lot of times people could just focus on making the workout space bigger and better and more equipment. And that's fine, but what are things that can really separate you from the other gyms in town? Everything you mentioned, totally hits that. And, one of the things that, again, I see a lot of gym owners making a mistake on is that they're just going to chase the sale, they're going to just try to get you in their program and they're going to just try to sell you on it. And they don't really try to connect and get to know you. And I think if even your office space feels more like we're just having a chat more than like a hard, sit at this desk and I'm going to flip this presentation, it kind of turns someone off. Like, how cool would it be if you just went and sat at a couch in the lobby and just had a chat with the person, right? And now it's not as invasive. So it just sprinkles into other areas. That's kind of what I love. And then also investing in your team, live events to kind of address what you mentioned, the improv. Our improv was promo class, and it was on Saturdays once a month. And they just said, you're wrestling Hulk Hogan, next Saturday, cut a promo on him. And sometimes it'd be big, celebrity stars. And sometimes it'd be an actual indie guy you're going to be wrestling next week. And that was how you kind of had to get those ugly reps out of your system. And, it's the same thing I teach, coaches and gym owners. It's I'm afraid to go live. I'm afraid to get on social media. And I'm like, you just got to do enough reps to get the ugly ones out of your system so that you start getting to your good ones, and you get to those better reps. But if you never start, you're just going to always be, stuck and never see that. Do you have any tips for someone that wants to get on social media more regularly? Sometimes there's that pressure. I got to go on every day, 5 days a week. And sometimes they just need to start with one a week and build up that, repetition. But do you have anything for people that are kind of afraid to step in front of the camera, get on social media, make content to kind of help them get started?
I think you nailed it. It's just doing it. Your first video is going to suck. Your first blog post is going to suck. Your first podcast is going to suck. First time you speak in front of people live, it's going to suck. And honestly, so is the 100th. But you just keep doing it and you get better and better. And then you look at it. That's what's fun, right? If you take or you just take physique pictures every day for 90 days, you don't see the changes. But then if you look, 7 days, 21 days, 60 days, okay, wow, man, I've made some real progress here. So that now you're just documenting your progress on a podcast or on video. Oh man, I thought I still sucked, but I really sucked then. Now at least I'm, a 3 out of 10 where I was a 0 out of 10. And that's just how you get better at anything. Same thing. If either of us, I don't know if you play golf, I don't play golf, but if we started today, it would be horrible. I'd probably shoot a 150. And then maybe a year from now, I'm shooting 100 or 96 or whatever, And so you're always going to get better if you just do it more. That's why I hear what you're saying once a week, but I would probably just force yourself to do it more often, just because you're going to see more progress, right? So like if you started training once a week, you're going to see decent progress. But if you train 4 days a week, you'll see faster progress. So I would say just push yourself to do it. And then you don't have as much time to think. What I love about failing is doing it the next day. Versus if I sat there for 7 days, like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I suck at this. And I did that. So for years, I never spoke in front of an audience. I said, I'm good in my gym in front of like 12 or 15 athletes or whatever, 1,000 square feet. I own the space. I control the environment. I can do that. But there's no way I could ever speak in front of a live audience. I'm not good at it. So in 2007, I was invited up to Boston to speak with Alan Cosgrove and Jim Wendler and Dave Tate and CJ Murphy. And leading up to it, I was like, oh, this is going to be so bad. And it was so bad. It was the worst ever. So then what I did is the mistake that I'm telling you not to make now is I didn't speak in front of an audience again for like 3 or 4 years because I was like, say, I told you I suck at it. What I should have done was gone to speak the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend. And I didn't do it until Bedros and Craig said, hey, we're having an event with 50 people in Vegas. Can you come speak? And prior to that, I had been working on it. I'd taken improv and stand up. I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I went, I spoke that night at the bar. Me and B were hanging out. It was in the early days of our friendship. And he goes, man, you're an entertainer. Like this is what you should do all the time. And I was like, all right, well, let me know when I could speak at another thing of yours. And then I just kept doing it. And then so you get better. And then if you don't do it enough, you get rusty. Like I just spoke in Arizona a week or two ago, and I hadn't done it in a while because of just the state of the world or whatever, right? And I was up there, I was like, God, this feels awful. Like I'm super rusty. I'm not as good as anywhere near as good as I used to be. I can't remember you just need to do things all the time. That's kind of the big takeaway here.
I love it. And I mean, I've even seen it when we would train coaches at our gyms. Is like, if you had one PT session a day for 7 days, how long would it take for you to improve? But when they had to run a block of boot camp sessions that were 5 sessions back to back, and after every session, we'd have a huddle up on feedback. And here's what you did good. Here's what you can improve. Let's apply that because the next session starts in 10 minutes. And then they jumped into it. You saw like same day improvement from the first session to the fourth. So I totally get what you're saying there. Like more repetition will speed up and time collapse that growth and that improvement. I love it, man.
So you just said something there. If you're training groups of people, like it's a performance. And again, to go back to wrestling, you always hear about Stone Cold and The Rock say, look, your best character is going to be you, but with the volume turned up to 10. So if you just walk in off the street as your normal self and you're just at, your normal everyday energy, and that's how you train a group of 20 people, no one's going to be like, that was amazing. But if you go in, okay, now I'm in character. Now, instead of just Dwayne Johnson, I'm The Rock. And everyone has to take on that mindset when you're training a group. Like it's a performance, you're entertaining them, you're inspiring them, you're storytelling, you're motivating. You're not just saying, hey, drive your knee forward a little bit more there. Like that's not creating a great, memorable experience. But what you said is where you're reviewing, you're prepping before, you're getting out of character, you're cutting promos, you're doing all those things. That's a great experience.
And it's funny because that's exactly like we called it shock your senses. And it was right when the timer hit the start of the session. So it was the 8:30 session, 8:28, 8:29. Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. And like, nice. I would just go running around and like, here we go, 8:30, let's go. And it's like, I treated it as my entrance music. And it was easy for me because I came from that world, but I would train to my team and I'd say, you got to come up with a character. And like, even some sessions we would have, like 2 coaches working together because it was such a big session. So we had this white guy and this black guy working together. I was like, you guys got to come up with a character. So they came to me, like we came up with Salt and Pepper, and that's going to be our tag team name. And so like people started bringing them like just, like props and jokes and like making little images with them. And like the clients ran with it. And the twins, they're giving the same workout the other coaches were, but they were more memorable because they put a character with it,
I love it.
So like that's a great way to get out of your comfort zone is number 1, just do more reps. Number 2, come up with a character that you step into once you get on the mats or the floor and you're training, a group of people and put on that performance for them, Jason, I want to ask you one last question, man, before we let you go. Where do you see the fitness industry going and evolving here in the next 1 to 3 years? Could apply to in-person training, could apply to online. But yeah, what's your take? Where do you see things going as, the world's changing very rapidly right now?
Years ago, I and Alan Kaiser wrote articles about how So Cosgrove actually credits me with inventing group training as we know it, and I'll take that credit because honestly, in '96 when I started doing that, there was no such thing. There was either one-on-one personal training, or you could go to like Lucille Ball or like an aerobics class. There was no strength training groups and classes.
Yeah.
I started doing that in '96, and it wasn't this stroke of genius. It was kind of like I just stumbled upon it with some of my high school athletes, and then that's how I trained everybody for the next several years. And then so years into that, a few years into that, I was like, hey man, this is the way to go. Cosgrove and I wrote an article about it on Elite FTS that one-on-one is dead. But and then just a few years back, I started saying, before COVID went out, I said, one-on-one definitely isn't dead. There's going to be, especially now due to the state of the world, there's always going to be people who can afford it. They're going to want to pay for one-on-one training, no matter what discount you give them, no matter how much better you tell them it's going to be. They'll pay for the one-on-one training. They want that. I mean, there's always that level of client in any business that's always going to buy the Rolls Royce option, no matter what. So I think there's definitely room for one-on-one. Like I have a coaching client who makes 7 figures a year. He has no social media account. He just trains clients and he charges them between 50 and 100 grand a year just for one-on-one. So, you can't just think, oh, this is what everyone's doing, I got to do this. There's ways to make money in any of those one-on-one group, whatever. And then I think it's going to be nowadays, like, I think, you mentioned Alex Hormozy. I think having a more specific niche is probably going to be important for you to stand out amongst all the noise. Like basically everyone on the planet is a fitness expert on Instagram now. It's like, it's hard to stand out. So you got to do something unique. You got to do something different. Is that just your personality? Maybe. Is that you have a really specific targeted niche so people know you're speaking directly towards them? I think that's going to be important for most people, unless you've either been in the game forever or you're as entertaining as Dave Chappelle or something like that. So I think you got to think about these things. Now, that doesn't mean hold yourself back and overthink it and don't put out content. Put out content immediately. Like as soon as you finish listening to this, put out content. And then over time, organically figure out, okay, who is really this specifically for? What is my specific thing? Yes. But don't wait and deliberate and think about it, because you'll never know until you put the stuff out. And then what resonates with people is going to resonate with people. And it might be not so much the specific scientific training info you're putting out, just maybe like, that guy's really funny and he's into pro wrestling and he's into this and he's into that. And we share common interests. I like this guy's stuff, Yes. So I would just say figure it out organically as you go, but just have that snowball effect of consistently doing stuff.
Love it. All right, man. All good, like projections. And I definitely see that. I know I've heard that it's not the strong who survive, it's the most adaptable. And everybody had to do adaptation, the last 2 years. And like the ones who were the most adaptable survived. And so that will continue to, go forward because they say there's some major catastrophe like clockwork every 5 to 7 years. So like when that next one happens, you're going to have to adapt again and then again and again. And so it's like, that's the character trait that's really going to help you to stay in it for the long run, is being the most adaptable to the changes. So I love it, man. Well, hey, it was an honor having you on the show, man, and catching up and just talking with you just again in a more one-on-one fashion and just like being able to connect deeper. So I know our paths will probably cross again. And thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I got to ask you one thing. Is your level of OCD higher than mine that your books are color coded? That what's, oh my God.
Yes, it is, man. So like you can probably see right here, like this area is not, and those are all my I need to read books. And then once they've been read, they get filed in a color coded. So
amazing. I love it. I love it.
But it's funny, I get remarks on that. So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna leave it if everybody else is digging it or notices it. But
it's great.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, we'll connect again, brother.